What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sitting Courtside. Of course, it's your boy, Jerry D.
It's your boy, Dante T, episode 78. Starting our week off hot Monday morning, 11 o'clock in the morning. I got my Celsius can open. We got Jerry looking fantastic, as always. Jerry, I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to talk some
Freeze
basketball.
frame.
We got freeze frame. We have some great topics. We have, just some things we're going to go over, kind of debate, go back and forth about. But Jerry, if you want to lead the way here, tell these beautiful people what we'll be talking about. I think that'll be great.
Yeah, so we're going to keep it interesting. We're going to keep it hot today. I think the last few episodes, we've dove into a lot of statty things in the statistician world. And, PER was mentioned whenever the Luka trade and things happen. Like, we're gonna ease up a little bit, make things a little more opinionated. So we're going to talk face of the league conversations that LeBron happened to have, which a lot of controversial things were thrown at him, to him. He had his response to that. We're also going to talk a little stat conversation is going to be more so about the Cavs and their number one seed and what that could mean for Dante and the Boston Celtics moving forward. Then we're going to close out with our MVP ladder and our thoughts about that. So without further ado, we'll kick this thing off with face of the league comments, which are probably a little concerning, but also kind of interesting, depending on how you want to look at it. Which
it's been a hot topic of debate over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I kind of understand why, but at the same time, I don't blame LeBron for what he said, which was, if you guys haven't seen it, you've been living under a rock, or you've been stuck in NHL land, or I don't know what you've been doing with your time. But hey, LeBron did say,
that's all-star game in sports.
Yeah, honestly,
Hockey. It's true.
Honestly. But LeBron said, why do you want to be the face of the league when all the people that cover our game on a day-to-day basis shit on everybody? Which, I guess let's just unpack that to begin with. What do you think about his initial response to just how he answered that question?
It makes me think that we saw the same TikTok, because I saw a TikTok days before LeBron said this, where it was talking about, we talk about the ratings going down and, not exactly face of the league issues per se, but, one thing that is an issue in sports today, especially in basketball, is criticism players receive by these, analysts and people that are meant to be, uplifting players and stuff. And some do that, absolutely. But then there are some that make a joke out of players and bring them down. Like, we love the show, right? And it's great entertainment. But Inside the NBA was the show that was being used as an example, where like guys like Shaq, Chuck, Ernie, Kenny, do they have moments where they talk highly of players and, they give great analysis? Absolutely. They're, 3 former NBA players. Ernie is one of the most respected journalists, broadcasters in the sport, 1000%. But are there moments where you're watching it and you see their criticism of players and it makes you think, wow, they really are just shitting on this guy and really bringing him down, and this is not a good look? I can probably think of as many times as that happening as, what I just mentioned with there being the good. So I do think that there is a fair criticism over how players get covered in the media, and LeBron makes a great point going off of that, where it's like, why would you want to be the face of a league where you're just going to get absolutely shit and you're under this microscope constantly? You can't fuck up, you can't make a single mistake, or you're going to get scrutinized for it. It's really just, it's a lot of pressure being the face of a league, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, hockey, whatever it may be. It's a lot of pressure, and not a lot of people can. Some people can handle that, don't give a shit, and then there are some people where it gets to, and I get that. I would totally understand that. So I get where LeBron comes from. I think that there are, multiple ways you can look at this, but I do think like the way players are covered on a day-to-day basis is a reason for a few things going wrong in the NBA right now. One being the whole who's the face of the league debate and stuff, and 2, ratings potentially being down. But the whole ratings thing is a debate for another day. It's just kind of tying things together.
I'm very much like I agree with you. Like, shows like Inside the NBA don't do a great job of putting players in the best of
And
lights.
I wanna point and say too, like guys, like again, like respect for those guys, but those shows I believe are made to be entertainment shows and not more so, straight up like X's and O's, right? I don't think that's their
Yeah.
priority. Like they're told by the network, we want viewers, we want ratings. How do you get ratings? They make shit jokes all episode. They do things. They talk shit. Shaq asked Chuck to re-say what he did 5 times or whatever. What you say, Chuck? What you say, Chuck? Like it's great television, but it's not also meant to be like the purest like
Yeah.
breakdown of NBA basketball. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I was also gonna like get there as well, like to where we don't have necessarily a show that's gonna be constantly dedicated to that on a nightly basis. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's all about viewership, it's all about ratings and keeping a viewer attached to the TV screen and money, of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping a viewer attached to the TV screen is not going to be X's and O's. For sickos like us, yeah, like I want to
And
understand a
that's
little
that's
more.
what podcasts are for. Like LeBron and JJ Redick's podcast, like that's
You're
what
literally just you're taking the words right out of my mouth, man. Like I'm getting
or,
there, like
or connecting. Yeah.
that's what it's all about at the end of the day is just money for these bigger media conglomerates like Turner Sports or like
Yeah.
ESPN. First Take isn't even it's not a show that breaks down anything too much. Like I love when a Dan Orlowski comes on and kind of does some X's and O's, or
Yeah.
Shannon Sharp decides to, all right, I'm not just entertaining. I did play the game for X amount of years. I'm a Hall of Famer.
UFC, KFC, OKC, doesn't matter. Lakers in 5.
Like this is what TV is. So we
Yeah.
understand that aspect of things. But
Right.
LeBron is definitely right though, in terms of there needs to be some type of accountability to where our former players are the pundits that speak on basketball on a daily basis should probably be people that also put the game in a better light. But LeBron also needs to take accountability for it, which he did in another quote later on, where he did say, like, they can be critical whenever we play bad,
100%.
but
Right.
they can't pick and choose.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, I just seen this thing on Twitter not too long ago where LeBron passed Magic Johnson in all-time assist a few years back, whatever. As soon as it happened, it's on Stephen A's world, and Stephen A has Michael Wilbon on, a respected journalist, a respected broadcaster for years. Like we all know Michael Wilbon.
Right. Mm-hmm.
LeBron breaks the record. Stephen A congratulates him. Michael Wilbon says, but that doesn't mean he was a passer like Magic. Like we know he wasn't a better
It
passer.
turns into a comparison and
And
kind of bringing down LeBron to uplift
yeah,
Magic Johnson.
and I
Yeah.
guess to some degree it kind of makes sense on why that's why the conversation steers that way. Because hey, like this guy is probably going to be looked at as a better passer than Magic Johnson, even though Magic Johnson is considered the best point guard in the NBA, depending on who you or in NBA history, depending on who you talk to. So it's a conversation that's never going to stop. And initially, when I saw this too, I thought of like, how do other sports view faces in the league? Where Patrick Mahomes is now the face. He's lost 2 Super Bowls, but we don't talk about that. Like,
Right.
oh wow, like what is he going to do next year? The Chiefs are done. No, like we know, like football analysts and all the people that talk the game are confident. Like, nah, they'll be all right. They'll be back next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how it was with Tom Brady. Whenever
Yeah,
he kind
and
of
kind of LeBron too. With he lost the first 2 finals, won the next 2, but then lost a string of finals and remained the face of the
I
league.
think in the NBA, like being the face of the league, you do receive a lot more hell.
It's different. Oh, 1,000%. It's
Definitely.
very, very, very different. And LeBron, I think, up until we talked about this last week a bit, where when people started to become like true fans of LeBron and giving him his flowers, it was like that
2016 for sure.
I think up until that point, he was like 100% was getting the hate, everything. Yeah, it makes you think like how much crazier it is like in the NBA, where it is like harder to be the face of the league or like maintain being the face of the league. And that's why someone like LeBron deserves flowers and respect, because to be from the second he entered the league until now, he has been just constantly.
But I think that's why it's so hard to give people like LeBron his flowers, because he's done this for so long that he's threatening all the other legacies of everybody before him. I'm just targeting Michael Jordan fans, like how Michael Wilbon and Stephen A. Smith are.
The old heads and stuff like that, people
Like,
that caught up in that generation. I get it, but
it's very much like, whoa, like he's not better than X, but he's great. And I give him his credit, but he's not like the first thing that comes up is always something to rebuttal.
there's got to be ways to balance it. You know what I mean? Like the rebuttals and the debates and stuff. That's just pure television debates and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. But it's hard for people to find a way to uplift both people without, with it being entertaining and stuff like that. They need to add the entertainment aspect, and that's where that stems
Well,
from. But yeah,
it's like you said already. Like that's what podcasts are for. Like that's what people do
it
on
is.
platforms like this,
Yep.
where we go on for 30 plus minutes or so and talk about, well, LeBron has done this, this, and that in his career, and he's about to score 50,000 career points soon.
1 point away, right?
Like
1 point away.
yeah, 1 point away. We're gonna respect that, and I'm not gonna say, well, if Kobe would have played and
Oh,
didn't get
he
hurt, like
he
no, like
missed an X amount of shots. It took him this many years to do it. Like, no,
I'm not gonna
pointless.
discredit anything. Like if we're gonna come to a debate and talk about that, sure. But if we're just gonna report on the news that happens, because next week, guys, hey, just a little Easter egg. We're gonna talk about LeBron breaking the record. That's gonna be a thing. Or breaking 50K. Sorry,
Right,
that's gonna be a
right.
thing. Like, but
He
all
keep
this did stem from Anthony Edwards saying he doesn't want to be the face of the league
right.
because of everything with the pressures that LeBron kind of mentioned. So I guess the follow-up question here to close us out for this segment, just who do you think should kind of hold that mantle? And obviously, I think that Anthony Edwards is trolling because I've come to just find out that this dude is just really like pure entertainment to where he doesn't mind making the media think one thing and
Hmm.
doing something else. So
Yeah.
like I'm like, dude, you're possibly going to be the face of the league, but who do you have in that spot or taking that spot after the OGs are out of here?
Like we talked about this, right? Where there's so many talented players where you could have multiple faces. You don't have to have one singular face of the league. I know that's kind of what, you know, every league has that one guy. Like, yes, you could have multiple big names, but there's always that one guy. And truthfully,
Absolutely.
like you look at guys like, like the Giannis's, the Jokic's, the Embiid's. And like I mentioned Embiid because like I know there's a lot going on with him now. He's out for the season and stuff like that. But it's like
Unhealthy MVP caliber talent, either way.
when he had multiple 30+ point per game seasons, an MVP winner, like when he was healthy, he is a face of the league contender, right? Like, but those guys, they're older, right? I mean, Jokic, like
29,
30s,
30. Yeah.
29, 30s, and I feel like they can still be like a face of the league, but their window isn't as open as someone like an Anthony Edwards who's 23, an SGA who's 25, 26, a Tatum who's 20, who just happy birthday, Jayson Tatum, who just turned 27 today. I had to throw that in there.
Cakes and candles, brother.
There's a lot of possible names here, and I have a list, and I'll throw a few possible, names that can be in contention. I have guys like Jayson Tatum, Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, Shai Gilegeous-Alexander. Call me crazy. I think one day Paulo Banchero can even throw his
That's
name
not crazy.
to throw his name in the hat.
It's
I
not
don't
crazy
think
at
it's the
all.
craziest take. Then again, I mentioned Giannis, Jokic, and Embiid. Two guys that I would love to consider, but for one reason or another, whether it's staying healthy, off court issues, I think guys like John Morant and Zion Williamson, I think the
Yes.
NBA would have loved
You
to
know,
push them as
but
faces of the franchise
before you
league in
finish,
2019.
your spiel,
Mm-hmm.
since you are mentioning the Jokic's, the Embiid's, I got two things.
Mm-hmm.
One, are we still gonna think that being age 30 doesn't mean you can't be the face? Because look at what guys like LeBron, Steph, or KD are doing to where
Right,
primes have been extended. And
for
two,
sure.
how do we feel about a foreign-born player being the face of an American-born league?
I'm with you. I agree. I hear what you're saying on the age thing, and me saying like I'm not discrediting or counting out guys like Giannis, Jokic, or Embiid. It's just to me, the window is still very open. But I think the NBA is looking at a 23-year-old Anthony Edwards that they could have that could carry the torch. Because
Marketability.
you could talk about LeBron too, about how he kind of is affecting the legacies of everyone before him. LeBron also, by being the face of the league for 20+ years, set an example and set the benchmark. So now the NBA might be looking for someone that could be the face, maybe not for 20 years, but a long shelf life. You know what I mean? Someone that you could really brand and market for an X amount of time, where like you can start, from beginning to end of their careers. Well, like Jokic has 3 MVPs so far. Embiid has one. Giannis is a champ and stuff. And you can still push them as a face of the league. I'm not saying you can't, but someone like Anthony Edwards hasn't won a championship yet. You can market it like number 1 overall pick, grinded through, finally won it, and then you kind of are telling his story. You're as being the face of the league and stuff. Personally, Jerry, I think Jayson Tatum is the perfect example of this. And I know I'm a Celtics fan. I get that. But like we talked about this last week, I don't want to go in circles, but multiple guys here check off the boxes and stuff of what you need to hit the criteria of being face of the league. And Tatum checks off all the boxes. I think someone like him, I think Shai Gilegeous has a chance. Ultimately, I think Victor Wembanyama is going to be the guy that is going to be the face of the league. Going to what you asked me about the whole foreign players thing, I personally don't care if it's a foreign-born player or not. I think there might, I don't know if like the NBA or they agree with me as much. I think that maybe they would rather push an American-born superstar. Because if you look
I
at the
kind of think
faces,
so.
I think if you look at all the faces of the NBA in league history, they're all, none of them are really foreign.
It's obviously it's a little different too, because in the 90s there wasn't a foreign-born player of that ilk.
Foreign-born
In the
players like
2000s.
that really didn't start until the 2000s, late 90s, whatever. Like this influx of foreign-born players,
And they've never been like in the top 10 though of like
100.
where they're
Yes.
at. But now we have, like you mentioned, Jokic, Giannis, Wemby's on the way. SGA's a Canadian.
If you
Like,
look at top 10 players in the NBA, half of them, maybe more than half of them, are foreign-born players. Probably 6 of the 10 are foreign-born players. So I think it's just you have to admit that we're like the best player in the league is a foreign-born player, and it's been like that.
There's
for
no
a few
probably
years
about
with
it.
Jokic. Yeah, it is. It's true. So I think everything that I said about pushing someone from the very beginning to as far along as they can, I think Victor Wembanyama fits that perfectly. And I know he's still very young, but I think he'll be the face of the league in like 2 years. They just need to put him on TV more. They need to give him more than like 10 nationally televised games. Put him on for 60 games. I swear. I know that's a lot, but like you got to do what you got to do.
You know, I don't want to spend too much time on this since it's already been 17 minutes of a conversation with this.
Yeah.
But what I will say, like, I do agree with all the faces that you mentioned, especially I think the person, if the NBA does care about the face being an American-born player, you need to make sure that Zion Williamson is probably healthy and available. Because
I think Zion Williamson was supposed to be the guy.
Yeah,
I think he was supposed to be the guy.
And that's probably the guy that still has a chance to crack that from it being Wemby for the next
very small, but that's still there. It's still
there's
there.
Still a glimmer of hope.
If he gets out of if he gets traded to a better franchise, he stays healthy and stuff like that, there's a chance. Absolutely,
there's definitely a chance. So like guys like that and him and Ja, I think probably are the two that I'm looking at. Like you guys are probably the most marketable just in terms of play style. Now they get it done right. Like,
too. It was
that makes
it could be a good story. That could be a good story.
It'd be great. But that's what definitely makes me have some promise, like, or some hope that, all right, you guys could still live up to your potential, not even just for the face of the league title, but just in terms of making this the most competitive era that we've ever seen.
Because
you guys are
them two being healthy, like that's 2 other teams you add to the mix. And I know Grizzlies are in contention; they're top seed in the West, but like Ja Morant on his A game takes the Grizzlies to a whole nother level.
Like
really.
my face of the league shouldn't be in possible trade talks if we fail. And that's what the Grizzlies are saying could happen.
Well, Luka Doncic got traded, and he's a contender for face of the league. So anything could happen.
Nico Harrison was on drugs.
Yeah, he was on crack. But yeah, there's I think we're in an era too where again everyone's going to focus on there being one guy, but I truly believe there doesn't have to be.
There's too much talent for there to just be one. But at the same time, for the sake of the old heads conversation with this thing, there kind of does have to be one face that when you think NBA, you think of this guy. Because when you think NFL, you automatically think Patrick Mahomes.
Pat Mahomes.
You think soccer, like, there's a few guys, but you can think
you narrow it down to Messi or Ronaldo or something like that.
And now Mbappe's coming up. And now like guys like Neymar are still around. And like there's a lot of big faces that you think of for certain sports.
Because I still think when you think of the NBA, I think LeBron is still the guy that a lot of people think of. Yeah. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, I think it's those 3 still.
They're still powering.
Before, and I know again that now we're closing on 20 minutes, we can cut it at 20, but like I really do think a big issue too is marketability. I think the NBA doesn't do as good of a job as they can with marketing up and coming
The smaller
stars.
market teams and the stars, yeah, that's what it boils down to.
I think there's a lot of things like All-Star game. Like I think all these things are connected. All-Star games, syncing, coverage. Even like people complain about like edits, like like coverage of the NBA, like
But
certain
it's a
countdowns or
highlight culture.
music.
It's highlight
Right.
culture now. Like that's all
But
we care about.
we're in an era right now where we just want to go back to the simple things and stuff like that. And the NBA, again, they just not
Well,
putting guys on TV, social
I'll,
media, whatever it may be. It's they could do a much better job.
I'll tie a bow on it with this that until we're able to actually make games more watchable and digestible, I don't know if that has to do with on the court play, with the schemes, or how the game is played.
Uh-huh.
Nobody's really going to tune in enough to actually get the game and break down the game unless you watch more podcasts like we talked about that do those things, or if you just want to sit through 48 minutes of basketball and actually learn something. Until then, this is our best friend for everything.
Yeah.
Like highlight code, we could scroll. Anthony Edwards almost
Why
dunk
watch
of
a
the
full?
year
Why
kind of
watch a
thing.
full
Like,
game when you can just scroll through Twitter and just get the highlight? Yeah.
even ESPN, when you watch it back on SportsCenter, gives you a quick rundown of what happened in the game, and that's what people prefer to watch. But we'll leave it at that.
Yep. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
It's a loaded
This
conversation.
next generation's attention spans are
Yes,
suffering.
they're gonna
Shout out
skip to
TikTok.
the 2022 mark. Like after we're like done. But anyway,
I will say there's a lot of sick edits on TikTok. Some people make some dope edits.
hey, they're fire, and I'm glad they're making their money.
That's true. That's true.
Yo, Clutch fam, are you ready to win some real money? Check out Pick 6 with DraftKings. When it comes to basketball payouts, DraftKings dunks on its rivals, including prize picks. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like points, rebounds, three-pointers, and more. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Missouri, and more. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6 and cash in on your basketball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code SITTING. That's code SITTING for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-7897-77 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Now back to the show. To move on, though,
All right.
we have, there's just a question that I think we kind of answered last week, but it was so dominant. The trade deadline was so dominated by Luka going to LA and AD going to Dallas, and then Jimmy Butler ends up a Warrior, that we
That's
kind
a
of
big
swept, not us, but society, NBA society swept DeAndre Hunter going to the Cavs right under the rug. Like it meant nothing.
Mm.
The Cavs, since he's been there, have been undefeated. They're 8-0 with DeAndre Hunter in the lineup, and they won their last 10 games in general. So it's kind of crazy how DeAndre Hunter has impacted the Cavs, but right now he's averaging 16 points, 52% from the field, 59.5 from deep from
That's good.
DeAndre Hunter. The guy that I feel like
That's
everybody
good.
was just like, oh, the Cavs got a good player. That's what's up. But did you see Luka went to LA? So I guess the question is just, what are we thinking of the Cavs? Because obviously you see the notes. Like I got it in the rundown here where they split the series with the Boston Celtics. And you guys were up, what was it, 25-3
Yeah,
in the first
25 to
quarter?
3. Yeah.
It's like
It was
I'm
a
seeing
hot
some chinks
start for
on
Boston.
Boston's armor that I'm kind of concerned about. But just I have the question here for you too. Is literally for you. Does Dante officially have an appropriate fear for the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Oh man, I'm looking for a tweet right now that I had earlier that I wish I could find right now. But listen, okay,
Paraphrase
so
it.
it's like there's some numbers in there, but I think I remember enough where I can go off. So the Celtics and Cavs have played 4 times. Let me start off by answering your question. Is there an appropriate fear? Yes, I believe as of March 3rd, the biggest the biggest obstacle for the Boston Celtics to go back to back is the Cleveland Cavaliers. At this point, I don't think there's a team in the West that can beat Boston. I think the Nuggets and the Thunder are. I know the Lakers are the 2 seed. Congratulations to LA. Yeah, it's unbelievable how well they've been playing. Their defense has been one of the best in the league since Luka makes
9-0 versus teams over 500 in the last few games.
They look great. And they're making a deep push. The Lakers and the Warriors are making pushes, and they're really making me think that they could make a run. But as of right now, I think the Thunder and the Nuggets are the biggest threats coming out of the West, and I think the Celtics can beat both those teams in a 7-game series. The Celtics and the Nuggets just played. Celtics did beat them, but Cavs Celtics 2-2 on the year. One game they've played this year where everyone's been healthy. Both teams. Before the DeAndre Hunter trade, so we'll keep that in mind, Celtics win. I believe they won that game, 112-105. All these games have been decided by 7 points or less, by the way. Celtics have beat them by 7. They just lost them by 7. Cavs beat them by 4. Celtics beat them by 3 the first time. The point differential is only by 1 in favor of Cleveland in all 4 series. So it is fair to say that this team, it is, they have a chance, of course. But in those other 3 games, there have been injuries. And more so, there have been injuries on Boston's side of things. So, and this isn't like me saying like, oh, like Boston would have won those games if this guy played. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But how I'm looking at it is in the 4 games that they played, 1 game, everyone was fully healthy, and the Celtics won that game. The other games, there was, players out here and here. Although I am fearful of the Cavs, maybe fearful isn't the word. Although I am sure that the Cavs would give us trouble in a 7-game series. I really do believe that, and they could push us to 7 games. This is like I'm trying to think of a good matchup of years past, but this is what's shaping up to be like what could be a rivalry in the Eastern Conference playoffs moving forward. Just 2 teams, 2 dominant teams, whatever. But I don't think the Cavs are there yet. I think they are still a bit too young, a bit too inexperienced. And when push comes to shove, the playoffs and stuff, the Celtics have been resting guys like Kristaps, Drew Holiday, Horford's in and out of the lineup and stuff because they care about the playoffs. I'm not saying these regular season games mean nothing to them and these games against Cleveland mean nothing to them, but they don't pick it up to that next level until the playoffs start. So until maybe I see something else out of Cleveland, maybe they finish the rest of the way undefeated. I don't know. But as of right now, I think the Celtics are still beating Cleveland in a 7-game series. But I do think Cleveland poses the biggest risk to Boston not going back-to-back this year.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I didn't cut you off or I didn't interject at all in that whole, your favorite word here.
Open mic. Yeah. Oh, you found a way to slip it in this week.
Yeah,
You remembered. No,
but not like it was definitely. I definitely agree with you. Like I think Boston. Everybody that watches this thing is going to agree with you. Boston will still be considered the favorites. I think heading into the matchup. But one thing that I could give some pushback on here is that although the regular season isn't as important, obviously, as when you get to the big dance, which is the postseason. These games have felt like playoff competition.
Big time, 100%.
To where 100%. I've been on the edge of my seat, even from I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched all 4 games, but I did watch 3 of them, including the one this past weekend. To where I'm on the edge of my seat, kind of just like, especially in crunch time, because at that point, it's about getting stops and scoring timely baskets. Once you get under 2 minutes. That's what the game is all about at that point. Like who gets the most stops and obviously who scores the most points. But mainly the stops are the important piece of things. Cleveland has looked like a more elite defensive unit this year so far. And maybe that is because of the absences of Drew Holiday and Al Horford, like in and out of the lineup. And Kristaps obviously a big piece of that. To where I'm kind of a believer now to where I think before it was all Boston, like in my head, like, no, dude, they get to the postseason. I think
it's not even, you don't even think about it. It's not even a debate.
Now I have a little more like hesitancy to just say, no, like Boston got, no, I can't just say Boston got it. Now I have to say, well, I think Cleveland could get it. And obviously, it looks like Cleveland's going to finish out as the 1 seed. That's pretty much wrapped up. It's going to be a foregone conclusion. But Boston is an elite road team. I think they have the best record on the road, or they're a top 3 team on the road in terms of record. So they have no problem going to play in Cleveland's building. Did you find the tweet?
No, I'm looking at they're 24-7 away, and they do have the best record. Technically, 1 win over OKC's 23-7 on the road. So
perfect.
And Cleveland has the 3rd best record.
That's also huge. But so in that case, with that being said, it doesn't even matter where the hell the game is being played at.
No, home court doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but at the same time, like both these teams are comfortable going into the others' arenas and upsetting them.
I think the chinks in Boston armor really come from more so. There's been a few situations now, a few games this season where we've seen them have huge leads, and they just squander them like
25-3. Tatum went, get the fuck out of here, man, right after the timeout, and they didn't. They actually came back.
They stuck around.
They stuck
around and kicked the ass. Like it.
Yes,
it happened.
Yes,
so
they did.
Giving up big leads is huge. I think also giving up points in the paint, but again, not having Porzingis kind of stops those things. But once 2 feet's in the paint, I've noticed that they kind of struggle to stop some of these guys.
Hey man, it's no excuse. You won a championship without him last year. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. And again, like me bringing up the injuries isn't me like again using it as an excuse. If they lost because of this, but it's like something to point out that like
it's important.
We haven't seen the full match. We've seen the full matchup like healthy teams once. That's the point being. So it's like it's hard to get a good feel on who's better than who when key players are out for most of these matchups that they've had.
Yeah, right now it's close. I'm not going to say that Boston is the definitive winner if they play each other. I'm not going to say Cleveland is either. Cleveland has got my attention to where I now have to say,
mine too.
I don't know who's going to win that series. Like that's what I'm telling you. But before we close out this, is it a foregone conclusion that Eastern Conference Finals, Cleveland as the 1 seed, Boston as the 2, that's happening? Are we ready to say that?
Unless there's some injuries that happen along the way, or there's some like seeding things that get, a team gets knocked out.
Giannis plays like a man possessed.
I think it should be pretty much a foregone conclusion that it's going to be Celtics Cavs in the Eastern Conference Finals. So those are the 2 best teams in the East, 2 of the best teams in the NBA. You can say they're 1 and 2 in the NBA. So it's. And also, I think the NBA is definitely going to want that matchup leading into the finals. That would be a big draw for sure.
I don't know. Like, I don't want to agree with you, but I feel like I have to agree. Like, it's kind of hard to put other teams. Like the Knicks just got healthy. OG's back, Mitchell Robinson's back. But
I think if there's another team in the East that can make a run, I think it could be the Knicks, maybe the Bucks. If
I'm thinking more so Milwaukee. But just from the standpoint, like, yes, I did just mention the Knicks got their guys back. They've been out for a long time, but they haven't beaten the Cavs or the Celtics at all. They're 0-3 against Boston. They're 0-2 against Cleveland.
They can't beat the best teams.
You can't beat them. Those are one of the guys that you'd have to be. I'm thinking second round out for the New York Knicks. The Bucks, they're going to have the best player on the floor. Like
100%.
No matter 100%. What. And you always have a shot if you have the best player on the floor. But you don't have the second, the third, or the fourth best guy. Yeah, which is kind of like
that's where the gap kind of closes in. Yeah,
unless Damian Lillard reminds us that hey, I'm still an upper echelon point guard. He turns back the clock. I don't think they make it out of the second round either. So it's kind of tough.
Yeah, it all depends on matchups, seeding, and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting how it kind of shapes up.
And speaking of interesting here, let's probably end it with the most interesting topic I think, which is the NBA MVP ladder.
Yes.
Which for a while now, every time we've seen the tweet or we've seen the articles come out with the NBA where SGA has been plastered at this one spot, he's been leapfrogged. Currently, as of March 3rd, the time that we're recording this thing, and this tweet came from February 28th that I seen this thing. So Nikola Jokic is 1, SGA is 2, Jayson Tatum 3, Giannis 4, and LeBron James squeaks into the top 5. The 40-year-old. The senior citizen.
Wild.
Just give me your thoughts. Just what does this look like? What are we looking at? When we look at the MVP ladder, how does that make you feel? What sticks out?
You know what we're looking at, Jerry? You know what we're looking at right now? We're looking at a great list. This is a great list. What stands out to me is the guy that's number one in MVP on this list, that's accurate. And I've seen a lot of people online upset about saying Jokic shouldn't be number one. I say, why not? Listen, he is putting up better numbers than Shai Gilegeous-Alexander. Nikola Jokic is third in the league in scoring. Shai's number one, averaging 32. Remarkable. 32, 6, and 5 on the season. I am not taking anything away from SGA. They're the number one seed in the West. I think they have that locked up. I don't think they're moving down from the number one spot. So he deserves to be number one in voting or in that contention.
No doubt.
Nikola Jokic is third in scoring, third in rebounds, second in assists. He's averaging 28.9 points, 12.7 rebounds, 10.4 assists a game. He is a 6'11 center. And the Nuggets are the 2 seed in the West now. At the beginning of the year, they were struggling. And me and you, we had our discussions on the Nuggets and, Russell Westbrook's fit and what actually, they're tied for the 2 seed right now. But still, regardless, they climbed up the rankings. They went from being a team that was looking like a play-in. They lost some depth. They're not going to be able to put this together and make it work. They might have to make a big trade. We were talking about them trading for Jimmy Butler. And I said, fuck it. Give them Jamal Murray. Not even Michael Porter Jr. Give them Jamal Murray. Now they're 39-22, tied for the 2 seed, 10.5 games back. Why doesn't Nikola Jokic deserve to be now the number one in voting when he helped lead his team to a 2 seed and are looking like championship contenders once again?
That was the big knock, right? That's why we were like, Jokic isn't going to win this MVP because
exactly. That was the thing holding him back. That was it. But now they're good. So why wouldn't he be number one?
He's got to get the nod.
That's all.
He's got to get the nod.
He's averaging a triple-double, 10.5 assists a game as a center. Again, he's averaging, I wish I saved these tweets, but you've seen these. We've seen them throughout the year. More points than this X player in their MVP season, more rebounds than X player in the MVP season, more assists than X player. Again, it's incredible what he's doing, and where we live in a tough era, Jerry, where there is just so much talent, as we mentioned earlier, where every single year there's going to be, this guy should have won it. This guy got snubbed. Every single year that's going to happen because there's so many players. LeBron is putting up better numbers this year than his MVP season in Miami.
His last one.
Again, it's like the NBA's changed, pace of play, things change, things adjust, numbers might inflate, whatever. But regardless, we're seeing a 40-year-old put up better numbers than he did as an MVP 10 years ago. And he's not going to win the MVP this year. He's not even going to be in the he's top 5, but he's not going to be in the final conversation.
No. It's
insane.
I think that's obvious. I'm not trying to be biased here, but I can't help but
that's what stands out the most for me too. Going to your questions, because we have a 40-fucking-year-old man, top 5, and he deserves to be there. It's not one of those things where it's they were putting him there because narrative. He genuinely deserves to be in the MVP top 5 conversation. That's nuts.
It's wild.
That's nuts.
It's just honestly, the list itself is already I think each, we talk about narratives playing a part in MVPs. Jokic's story now is I took my team out the gutter and put them back to where we belong.
And they made no moves, too.
They made no moves.
Deadline move.
They made no moves. They stayed the same. They trusted the continuity. Russell Westbrook played well, and they did their thing. SGA, it's dude, we're the best team in the league record-wise. We've done our thing. We've been at the top of the West all season long, and we're probably going to stay there. That's their story.
Yep.
Jayson Tatum, obviously, dude, I'm fresh off an NBA championship. I'm on a top 2 team out east, but we're also still considered the title favorites.
Best player on the best team, you can say.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, we're finishing my thoughts a lot today. I think we're in sync. We're locked in step right now.
It's the Celsius talking.
But that's Tatum's narrative. Giannis,
right.
It's dude, we were also struggling. He has the same kind of story like Jokic, except he didn't 100%. Ascend as high, obviously, but it was still dude, you guys were thinking about trading Damian Lillard at the trade deadline before, out of nowhere in January, they got back up to where they needed to be. So it's very much, and obviously, all those guys' stories is great, but none of those guys really made, obviously, Chris Middleton being traded was the only other trade amongst these 5 candidates teams. LeBron lost a defensive anchor, a top 75 player all time, a future Hall of Famer in Anthony Davis somehow gets Luka Doncic. The team gets better defensively. They're beating 500 teams in thrillers and playing better basketball on the defensive side of the ball, which is still the craziest thing. And you literally, it's Luka Doncic. This is not
Insane.
what anybody expected in terms of landscape change to one's team. You lost a man in the middle to get a guy that plays a similar style to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you guys somehow got better when the anticipation was like, dude, getting Luka Doncic was a trade for the future. No. They're tied for the 2 seed right
It's still
now.
a trade for now. It's still very much a trade for the present as well.
Not like, and again, they've made so many different moves. Like this year alone, getting Dorian Finney-Smith, like, after giving up some spots, and you get Luka Doncic. It's kind of like,
and then they tried to get Mark Williams,
and they tried to get like.
stuff
There's been
there.
so much drama. There's been so much turmoil in the tabloids.
And somehow they're still number 2.
And they're number 2, and their best player,
Rookie head coach too, JJ Redick.
That's another. How could I forget?
Yeah.
That's another thing. A rookie head coach who's again supposed to probably struggle. Instead, LeBron is arguably the best player.
For a guy with no coaching experience, he should struggle. The most he has on his resume is what, high school
coaching experience was coaching his son's 4-year-old team.
4-year-old. I said high school. I fucking gave him too much credit there. And had a podcast with LeBron. Those are the 2 biggest things on his resume.
Great ESPN analyst and broadcaster.
Unbelievable.
Jumps to the sideline, is succeeding.
Number 2.
With
number 2 seed.
And it's in LA. The bright lights.
And he's the expectations, and also being in like the middle of all this stuff going on, like the trades and shit. So he has to adjust, and he needs to fucking
Hey, man.
Flowers to JJ Redick too. All credit to him because
Absolutely.
Other coaches were spiraled that they would not have been able to handle that.
Hey, we saw a first-year head coach last year in Adrian Griffin who was 30-13 and lost his job.
Every now and then I think about him. Every now and then I think about what could have been.
It's kind of wild. Like, hey, man, JJ Redick goes through massive changes in his first year as a head coach in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And
generational changes, you can say.
Dude, I don't even it's honestly a no-brainer to me. Like, yo, shout out to Nikola Jokic, being at the top of this thing. I agree with you. He deserves to be there. SGA, if you have a problem with it, I don't know what to tell you, dog. Like, you got to average a triple-double. Like,
right.
That's how
I mean, I think the vote's going to come down to, like, it's going to be so close. It's going to be, like...
You're going to be splitting hairs.
It really is going to be. And both are deserving, 100%. But it's like, Nikola Jokic is doing some crazy things that I think where it's okay to make the argument that he's ahead of SGA in the MVP voting now.
Yo, man, we're about like 59 games in, 60 for some looking at OKC, but we have 20-ish, 25-ish games left or so.
Yeah.
A lot can happen in these games because not saying that this does happen. The Nuggets are missing some starters and some role players in their lineup. They could drop, potentially.
Right.
Maybe OKC drops. Maybe the Knicks take Boston over as the 3 seed, and then Tatum's name falls out this race. Like,
sure.
I don't know what happens or who really wins this thing. I still don't think Jokic is a lock. Honestly, I don't think anybody in this thing is a lock.
I don't think SGA is a lock either. I think he was very close to being one, but now it's loosened up. I don't think Jokic wins the MVP if the Nuggets finish anywhere below 2. I think the Nuggets have to be a top 2 seed. And I mean, listen, OKC is 10.5 games up. I think they're going to get the 1 seed. It needs to be one team goes on like OKC needs to lose 10 games in a row or something.
That's not happening.
And that's not happening. At this point in the season, they're too good. That's not going to happen. So they're going to get the 1 seed. At this point, it's like the Nuggets need to get as close as they can, and Jokic maintains a trip. Maybe he has a few more like 20-20 10 games or he needs to put up like a 30-20-20 game or like I think
it's so crazy you're talking about this so casually, but he can really do it.
He can do it if there's anyone. If I think if he puts together it sounds crazy, but like again, if he can do it, if he puts together like 2 more performances like that, like never before seen stat line performances, I think I think more people mostly going to be comfortable with saying Jokic has leapfrogged him. But I think the narrative is still so strong with SGA winning that's still kind of like what people are like focused. I think and voter fatigue We saw it with Embiid a few years ago.
You seen LeBron for the whole decade last year.
LeBron could have 7 MVPs. You know what I mean? Mahomes is the MVP every single year in the NFL. Mike Trout could realistically be the MVP. Shohei is going to be that guy in the MLB. The voter fatigue is a real thing. So that's why I think SGA, that's on his side this year as well. So I think SGA is still like going to win it, but I agree that Jokic should be ahead of him like right now. Like I think that's a fair thing to say.
I don't know who's going to win. And
it's going to be close, man. It's going to be very close.
I'm going to just sit down and sip my tea and just let things play out. But
let it play it out. It makes for great basketball.
We are at the end of the rope here, man. It's been fun. Do you have any last parting shots for the fans here?
Yeah. John Cena, how could you? You son of a bitch. You went full corporate. You went full heel in 2025, John. How dare you?
Talk to Triple H.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it so much. I'm all for this bad guy, John Cena. I got my hustle, loyalty, respect chain gang.
I've never noticed that.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I did not know that's what that was.
Down since day one. Yeah, I think he needs to break that out during this tour. But, yeah, no, WWE, a lot of shit going on right now. If you aren't tuning in, I'd start now. That's my sign off.
You know, for me, I want everybody to notice that basketball is in probably the best place that it's ever been. And talk about eras being better than one another. We're in the best of it because the Portland Trail Blazers play really good basketball. And I just want to give a shout out to Chauncey Billups sticking and the organization just sticking with him as a first-year head coach a couple years ago at the end of the Damian Lillard era, to where they now have promising young players to where Portland could be one of those teams that just are annoying to play in the Western Conference. So shout out to the Blazers for player development.
They got a good young core too.
Shayden Sharp, Danny Advia, Anthony Simon, Scoot Henderson's figuring it out. So I just want to give, my salute to that. It's fun. They're fun to watch. And that's my new League Pass team / Streamies because I don't pay for League Pass. Sorry.
I don't blame you. They're definitely a young team on the come up. They just kind of have to, see how they play out over the next few years. Maybe some, kind of see who fits with who, trade some guys, move some pieces around to get bigger name guys. But they got some good stuff going down there.
Yep. And hey, guys, that's episode 78. Putting on my best Dante hat here. You guys make sure that you like and subscribe if you don't already. If you happen to stumble upon this video, why not leave a comment? Holla at us. Follow us on, obviously, subscribe to YouTube. Hit that little bell for the notifications to come on. Twitter, IG, TikTok. We're trying to be better about posting on those other platforms. We're YouTube heavy. Admittedly so.
Right. We're very YouTube heavy.
Yes. But hey, if you guys don't want to see our pretty faces, you just want to hear our beautiful voices, why not just give us a 5-star rating on all this Spotify and everywhere else you could get us on audio? Give us a 5-star rating.
Come on. What are we doing? What are we waiting for?
I know you love us. I know you love seeing us even more, so you might as well hit up YouTube. But that's all we got for today. Make sure you tune into our shorts and hit us up next week. Till then, Shabba.
Peace.